So because of the current situation, the market and the customers want to continue with what they are doing, because obviously it's a large market. But as an underlying sentiment, I think last couple of years the focus has been on basics. So if it is something really critical for a business operation, they'll probably do that. But investing heavily in future, investing in transformational opportunities, investing in ideas that are a bit out of ordinary, has not really been the theme if you compare that with the previous, let's say, 5-6 years. So for Cisco, it poses a unique challenge and an opportunity, because globally we are known as an industry catalyst. So if you look at the build-up of some of the critical national citizen-related services in more mature markets, in certain countries you had the application first, defined by a particular service that you need to deliver, and then the infrastructure has been catching up to support those services and applications. In some of the other emerging markets where the governments had a vision or the private sector had a vision, they built the infrastructure first, and then it really mushroomed the introduction of some of those services. So in Pakistan, probably I think we had a fair bit of advantage on the infrastructure side. If I look at the last 10 years after we started privatization of telecom, incumbent telco and deregulation, I think we have overall a world-class communication infrastructure. So in our view, if the business environment gets a bit better, and possibly we'll probably see some new governance structure coming up after elections. So probably some of the people are also holding their investment, which is similar to what you see on a global basis. So this can really pose a huge opportunity. So from a Cisco standpoint, we are really readying ourselves for that new wave of expansion and growth. And we are also working with our customers and partners to ensure that the entire value chain is ready once we have a more conducive environment for growth. But Cisco is by and large bullish on the potential that is there in the market. So we still exist with 3 offices across Pakistan, so we pretty much have a countrywide coverage. And we have a full-blown organizational structure where not only we have sales and business development people, but we have a very talented technical team that gets involved with network and application design with the customers, and then also through the life cycle support services that are required for the projects. Because over the last 4 or 5 years, what the customers have been telling us, IT has become central to most of the large businesses. If I go back, let's say 10 years, for a bank, IT was important, but it was more of an optional subject, right? It was not really a very fundamental requirement at the scale that it exists today. Today, most of these large organizations cannot really exist without their IT and communication infrastructure. So based on that, that poses a huge responsibility on technology players such as Cisco, with the leadership position that we have globally, to come out and contribute, not just when the market is growing, but also anticipating the next wave of growth. So that is clearly what we are focused on these days. And I see immense opportunity for Cisco and all the other players in the value chain going forward. So if I look at the overall regional environment, I think we are at the crossroads between the South Asian region and the Middle Eastern region. So if I look at Middle East first, which Cisco is part of in terms of our geographical structure and hierarchy, obviously with the oil and petrochemical revenues, the economies in most of these countries are really growing. And not only they are growing, but they are also spiraling growth in the overall context of the regional economy, because they are creating jobs for other countries, and even at a time when some of the more mature markets like Europe and partly Northern America have been a bit sluggish, emerging markets and part of that the Middle Eastern economies have been really contributing towards the growth in the region. But if I look at the skill set that has been created in these countries, I think the skill set that we have in Pakistan is at par with most of these markets. In fact, we are exporting quite a bit of talent to those growing economies that we developed over the last, let's say, 10 to 15 years because of the telecom deregulation and the growth in financial services and large-scale manufacturing. So our IT folks got really good exposure, world-class exposure, and now they are using that exposure in the Middle Eastern markets, and that is obviously resulting in pretty decent dollar revenue stream coming into Pakistan, which you can also show from the money that expats are sending. It's going up, and now it's not just the money coming from the working or the labor class. It's also white collar worker, which is having pretty sophisticated skills in business and IT. So from that standpoint, I think overall we have done a decent job, but clearly there's a huge upside. Even if I look at the percentage of our youngsters that come up from universities, probably if we can give them some more streamlined job environment, then it can also help our local economy, and we can also export more of that manpower to contribute in the region. If I compare that with the South Asian economies, clearly they were probably a bit more proactive in developing in-house or indigenous skill set. So obviously India is a big example, and with the size of their market and the early mover advantage that they had, clearly their export-oriented IT industry is a lot more boom than what we have in Pakistan. And that is also partly arising from the fact that some of their larger business conglomerates, which were not necessarily into IT business earlier, but they were the largest business houses in India, they invested in this business. So now they have large structured companies that are actually going on a global scale, and that is obviously boosting their IT exports and the employment within country. So Pakistan obviously has a long way to go. But if I look at some of the current indicators, with the current cost point that we have in Pakistan and the quality and the talent that we have available, I think it can be a huge success story if we are able to stabilize the overall situation in the country to some extent, and then go about this in a structured fashion. I'll give you some examples. For the companies that invested in Pakistan to have their IT backend or consulting type of structure in Pakistan, the likes of Teradata or local companies like LMKR and so on, it has been a huge success, because the quality that you can deliver from Pakistan and the cost point that you actually charge for that is really unparalleled if you look at the region or the global market. Probably I think the challenge is really streamlining that in a manner that we have economies of scale into this, and then we are able to build the trust of the foreign customers and even local investors into that business. But clearly I see a huge upside, and obviously with some of these macro challenges easing off going forward, this can be a pretty sizable business. So I think the basics are there, we just need to take it forward in a more structured manner. Probably we would do a better job with a bit more linkage and hookup between the industry and the academia. There have been some initiatives. Some of those business schools are actually quite eager to take the industry and global players such as Cisco, Microsoft, Oracle and so on board in that regard, and we have done our bit to actually help entice that type of interaction. But clearly I think we have a lot of room for improvement. Probably in the mid-tier we need more focus, because if you look at the 5 to 10 public sector universities or some of the top-notch institutions, there I think the quality is really world class. But as you look at some of the other institutions that have come up recently, and probably they have a bit of more work to do. There I think between the regulator, whether it's the education regulators such as HEC or the provincial higher education departments, and the business, they need to work more closely to ensure that the graduates coming out of those institutions actually have an exposure of the industry, and then their curriculum is tuned more towards the industry requirements. So most of the major players, including Cisco, have our own certification, training and development programs. So Cisco has something called Network Academy program, which is a global program. It is also dubbed as the largest classroom in the world. So currently we have more than 5 million students enrolled globally in the Cisco Network Academy structure. In Pakistan, we have close to 100 network academies enrolled in that program, and so far they have churned out more than 15,000 students. And a few years back we also had a drive to get more and more of the educational institutions, whether these are intermediate colleges, degree awarding colleges or universities, enrolled in that program. So probably if we can do a bit more work between players such as Cisco and the educational institutions, then this will ensure that once the students comes out of the university or college, they not only have a proper academic qualification, but they also have some really industry certified qualification in conjunction. And probably we can push that down to intermediate level, because some of the basic certification that we offer or our other contemporary vendors offer, they don't really require degree education. So similar to the model that we have in countries like China, you don't need everyone to get a university degree to be resourceful and gainfully employed. So if we can probably do a bit more effort into this as a country, the overall quality and the readiness of those graduates can actually improve a lot. Apart from business growth and the dependence that we have on IT as an enabler for business, one of the other things that we can contribute towards, and this is something which is also a personal passion for me, is improvement of critical citizen related services. E-governance is a buzzword globally, and there is a lot of merit to that. But if you look at the delivery of some of the critical citizen related services like education, healthcare, public safety and security, the new ICT technologies can really help us bridge the gap between people who are living in urban and more affluent areas where there is access to most of these services, and people who are living in remote areas. So recently, Cisco as a technology catalyst came up with certain initiatives where we are trying to work more closely with the other verticals like healthcare industry. So for example, if you have a consultant available in a city like Islamabad or Lahore, it is unlikely that even if he is offered a very decent job, he would probably move on to a remote city to do his consultancy or practice. So we now have technologies as a result of integration between the technologies that we produce and technologies that most of these medical engineering companies produce. So I can give an experience where we have a patient and a doctor sitting face to face, even though one of the persons is 300, 400, 500 kilometers away from the other side. So let's say you have a patient in a village close to Bahawalpur and you have a doctor in a clinic in Lahore, and they can sit face to face. We have the technology available where we can get the patient's vital statistics, even if it's an ENT consultant, you can get an HD camera that can be with the patient on the remote side, and doctor can examine that on a real-time basis. So if we are able to bring some of these technologies into practice in a country like Pakistan, which is very large, we have a huge population base with more than half of the population living in villages, probably this is the next wave that we need to focus on beyond the current businesses which are more lucrative to invest in. So this is something that we are looking at, and this is something that we are preparing for in conjunction with some of the other players in the value chain.